I don't even want to participate in this trial if you're going to gag me. Just let me stay in my cell. Let me stay in my cell.
When he said that stuff to me, I was kind of sad because my mom was pregnant and it was a burn stomach.
He walked into a place of worship with a gun and left behind a silence that would never fully heal. This is where we begin, inside a Kansas courtroom, where an aging white supremacist stared down a jury and tried to justify the unjustifiable. Frazier Glenn Cross, also known in some records as Frazier Glenn Miller Jr., planned his attack in Overland Park, Kansas, in April 2014. First the Jewish Community Center, then the nearby Village Shalom retirement community. 3 people were killed. Dr. William Corporon, his 14-year-old grandson Reet Griffin Underwood, and Terry Lamano. None of them were Jewish. The hate didn't even find the targets he imagined. It found human beings, standing where families gather, where kids rehearse, where grandparents park and walk slowly to a door they've opened 100 times. In the dashcam aftermath, he didn't cry or ask what he'd done. He shouted Nazi slogans. In court, he fired his lawyers and represented himself, a man convinced that rage was a worldview. He told the judge he'd earned his right to say anything, boasting about a past steeped in extremism. When the prosecution asked him why, he didn't speak in riddles. He said it plainly. He thought his victims were Jewish. He would not have shot them otherwise. The room went still. There are moments in a trial when the law meets something older and darker. When a sentence has to carry not only a punishment, but the weight of a community's grief. The jury convicted him of capital murder. The judge imposed death. Years later, he died on death row. But families still live with birthdays that now feel like anniversaries, with empty chairs at dinner, with the sound of a gunshot echoing through places that should have stayed ordinary. Hate doesn't always dress itself in a manifesto or a podium. Sometimes it looks like a red Jeep turning a city street into a hunting ground. In Gresham, Oregon, on a summer night, 19-year-old Larnell Bruce tried to get away. He'd been in a frightening confrontation outside a convenience store, his head smashed against a window, adrenaline doing that thing it does when your body says run, now. Across the lot, Russell Courtier climbed into his Jeep. Seconds later, a camera caught the one thing you pray not to see: a heavy grille, headlights building speed, and a human being who won't make it across the road in time. Courtier missed once, looped, and came back faster. Larnell tried for the safety of the sidewalk. He didn't get there. In the courtroom, every frame became a sentence. Jurors watched the pursuit, the angle, the acceleration, the aim. Prosecutors argued what the tape already suggested. This wasn't panic, it was a decision. They brought in context. Courtier's ties to a white supremacist prison gang. The racial hostility that set the tone before steel met flesh. The defense tried to sand down intent, but you can't edit momentum. The jury found Courtier guilty of murder, hit-and-run driving, and the hate crime charge of second-degree intimidation. The judge handed him life with a 28-year minimum before he can even ask for parole. Larnell's father faced the man who killed his son and said what every parent carries after a senseless loss: "You didn't just ruin my life, you ruined your own." The sentence will keep Courtier off the streets, but it won't rewind the tape. That's the thing about vehicle murders. There's no mistaking the physics. A car is a promise. It gets you home. In the wrong hands, it becomes the last thing you ever see.
When he said that stuff to me, I was kind of sad because my mom was pregnant and it was a burn stomach.
And then there's the kind of hate that starts with a word and escalates into a knife. In Portland, Oregon, a 7-year-old boy learned, far too early, what the N-word sounds like when an adult spits it in your face. His older brother stepped in, as older brothers do, and the man, Michael Amantullo, did not back down. He went into his apartment and came back with a butcher knife, pointed it from a few feet away, and turned a courtyard into a hunting blind. The 2 boys ran and hid under a stairwell, the older one calling for help, the younger trying to understand why a stranger would want to scare him, to hurt him, to make him afraid of being alive in his own neighborhood. Trials like this are about more than statutes. They're about telling the truth of what violence does to a child's brain. On the stand, the 7-year-old didn't argue about politics. He told the judge he was sad because the man threatened to kill his mom, and she was pregnant. That's the kind of detail you don't forget. It sits with you. A stone in a pocket you never empty. The court listened. The judge spoke directly about the first time a black child hears that word used as a weapon, how it brands a memory. A jury convicted Michael Amantullo of menacing, second-degree intimidation, and unlawful use of a weapon. He was sentenced to 3 years, 2 in prison and 1 in jail. There's no number that makes a 7-year-old less scared, but there is a line the law draws, and that line matters. We do not tolerate adults who weaponize slurs and knives against children. 3 crimes, 3 different weapons, the same undertow. Frazier Glenn Cross brought a rifle to a parking lot and tried to turn faith into fear. Russell Courtier turned a curb lane into a dead end, using a Jeep like a bullet he could steer. Michael Amantullo grabbed a kitchen knife and aimed it at 2 boys whose only offense was existing within earshot. And in each case, there were witnesses who refused to look away. Officers who followed the procedure they train under fluorescent lights to execute under sirens. Prosecutors who laid out timelines and motives and made sure a jury understood that hate crime is not a buzzword. It's a charge that recognizes the target wasn't random. The message was meant for many. Think about what stays behind. In Kansas, a music room at a community center where a teen once practiced, now a place where a mother remembers the last time she heard her child laugh. In Oregon, a crosswalk you can't drive through without glancing at the sidewalk and wondering if anyone else sees the skid of memory there. In an apartment complex, a staircase that 2 brothers still avoid because that's where fear learned their names. Justice cannot be resurrection. It can be recognition. It can be removal. It can be the public record saying, "We saw what you did, we understood why you did it, and we will not allow you back into the stream you poisoned." But justice is also a mirror. It asks what we missed and when. Cross didn't wake up at 73 and decide to hate. He curated it, polished it, gave it language and ritual. Courtier didn't invent white supremacy the night he stepped on the gas. He borrowed it from a shelf where someone had kept it cleaned and ready. And still, amid the wreckage, there is something stubbornly human that survives. It's in a father who speaks with dignity to the man who killed his son. In a judge who explains to a 7-year-old that his feelings are real and that the law is on his side. In jurors who sit for days, watching videos no one should have to watch, and then get it right. That's not a happy ending. It's an honest one. Hate will not always wear a uniform you can spot from across the street. But when it shows itself, at a community center, on a dark roadway, on a sunlit walkway where kids play, the record will show we named it, proved it, and answered it. If you felt a knot in your stomach at any point in these stories, sit with it for a moment. That feeling is a compass. It points to who we still are when the shouting stops. People who believe that a sanctuary should stay a sanctuary, that a crosswalk should stay a path home, and that a child should never learn the shape of a knife by the way a stranger holds it.